the first canto, 7th chapter, verse 24. And we'll start with the Manglacharan prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Udirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shlokir Bhaktir Bhavatir Naishtiki Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Guruve namaha. So we are continuing with our discussions on the interactions between Arjun and Ashwatthama. So just to bring, for a quick recap, to bring everybody up to speed, we had stopped last week at the point where Arjun, who was following Ashwatthama, suddenly sees a bright effulgence coming towards him at great speed. So going back a little bit further, this is in consequence of Ashwatthama attacking the Pandavas' camps late at night, in fact in the middle of the night, and massacring almost everybody over there, including the 5 Upa-Pandavas, or the 5 sons of Draupadi. And when the Pandavas come to know about it, they are not only distressed but very angry also. And then Arjun promises to Draupadi that he will soon return carrying the head of Ashwatthama, and he promises that you take a bath standing on the head of Ashwatthama, after which you can perform you can perform the funeral rites of your son. So then Arjun, he takes his Gandiva bow, he wears his armor. Krishna assumes the position of the charioteer for Arjun, and they quickly set forth in the direction that Ashwatthama's chariot has gone. So Ashwatthama, seeing Krishna and Arjun following him at great speed, and then noticing that his own horses were tired, he, out of fear of his own life and seeing no other alternative, he cast the Brahmastra. And Arjun, on seeing the Brahmastra, he turns and starts praying to Krishna. So the last 2 verses, 1:7:22 and 23, are significant verses because in his glorification, Arjun brings forth many important points in terms of why should one take shelter of the personality of Godhead. So he makes the point that only Krishna is in a position to give Abhaydan, to make one fearless. And the reason Krishna is in that position is that he has nothing to do with the material world. He's completely beyond the material world and fully situated in spirituality. But at the same time, he is very, very closely associated with the material world. So the acharyas, they speak at length, trying to resolve these 2 points. That if Krishna was beyond the material world, then he would have nothing to do with it. But if he was very closely associated with the material world, he would also get influenced by the material energy. And the acharyas say that only for Krishna or his pure devotees, these two conditions can simultaneously coexist. That Krishna can be in the material world, but not of the material world. Krishna can be in the spiritual world, but fully present within the material world and fully empowered to liberate one from the material world. So, having made this point, Arjun will continue to expand on this. So let's read 1:7-24. Saiva jiva lokasya maya mohita chetashaha vidatse svena viryena shreyo dharmadi lakshanam. And yet, though you are beyond the purview of the material energy, you execute the four principles of liberation characterized by religion and so on for the ultimate good of the conditioned souls. So as we had just discussed, the previous two verses were more in terms of what can Krishna do, or what does Krishna actually do. So he provides protection to his devotees. He liberates them from the clutches of Maya, and he makes them fearless. So this is what he can do. In this verse, Arjun talks about the how part. That how does Krishna accomplish this ultimate good? So he says Shreha. That how does Krishna give this Shreha for the Jiva Lokasya Maya Mohita? So this is us. So Jiva Lokasya. So this is the living entities who are of this material world, Maya Mohita. Why? Because they're bewildered by Maya. So what does Krishna do for their Shreha? What does Krishna do for their ultimate good? So this verse is very interesting because the very first word in this verse is Sa. Sa eva jiva lokasya. In the translation, Prabhupada expands Sa as, and yet, though you are beyond the purview of the material energy. So it's an interesting translation. So in the word to word, Srila Prabhupada translates Sa as that transcendence. And even in this context, Sa actually means that. So that is like a placeholder. So you're describing something, and then when you refer to that concept again, so instead of describing the whole concept again, you say that as a pointer. The river by the name of Ganges is flowing in different states, full stop. That is a pure river. So that is pointing to everything that was used to qualify that a river is with pure water is flowing. So similarly, the Sa is pointing to the description that was given to talk about the position of Krishna in the previous verse. The interesting thing is that Srila Prabhupada expands this to say that so the Sa means that you who are beyond the purview of material energy. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he translates this Sa as you who is situated in the spiritual energy. So both of them look kind of the same. It's like saying 6 of one or half a dozen of other, but there is a slight difference. Prabhupada translates a you that is beyond the purview of material energy. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying you that is situated in your spiritual energy. So the rest of the verse, and the reason it's interesting is that the rest of the verse translates differently based on how this Sa is read. So let's look at both of them. So Srila Prabhupada, when he says Sa as one who is beyond the material energy, he goes forward to say that you yourself, Svena, execute vidaste dharmadi lakshanam. So Adi means extra, not extra. Adi means etc. Dharma, of course, is dharma. So dharmadi lakshanam are the four principles of religion: dharma, arth, kam, and moksha. So they're also known as the Chatur Purusharthas. So followed by saying that Chetasha, that you inspire Jiva Lokasya Maya Mohita, that you inspire the conditioned souls by Viryena, by setting an example for them to follow. So if you look at Prabhupada's translation, what it reads out to be is that even though you're beyond the purview of the material energy, yet you're executing the Chatur Purusharthas that are only available within the material energy for one and one purpose only, which is Chetesha Virena, which is to set an example for the conditioned souls. So let's keep that in mind. Now let's see the translation of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, where the Sa means that you have nothing to do with the material energy. You're completely situated in your spiritual conception. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says, based on this translation of Sa, Krishna might ask that if I have nothing to do with the material energy, how can I help the material conditioned souls? And Arjun says, Eva, certainly you are non-different from your spiritual energy. So that is his translation of Sa, that you are nothing to do with material, Eva Sa. You have nothing to do with material. You're completely situated in your spiritual energy. But even so, Shreha, for the benefit of Jiva Lokasya Maya Mohita, for the benefit of the conditioned soul, you through your power, Viryana. So Virya means power. Literally it means valor, also power. You through your Viryana, Dharma the Lakshanam, that you give them this Chatur Purushartha, inspiring them, Chetesha, to execute Vidatse. So the translation is that even though Krishna is situated in a spiritual energy, he can still influence the jivas by inspiring them to follow the words of the scripture. So if you see the difference between the two, what Prabhupada is saying, that Krishna, by personally following the Chatur Purusharth, is inspiring the jiva. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying that Krishna, by giving the scriptures which contain this Chatur Purusharth, is inspiring the jiva to follow the scriptures. In both the cases, Krishna is aloof from the material energy. In both the cases, Krishna is inspiring the jiva. And both these translations are correct because Krishna is actually doing both. He's giving the scriptures in which the Chatur Purusharths are provided, and he's inspiring the jiva to follow this Chatur Purusharth, which is what is happening when we study the Bhagavatam. So the Bhagavatam contains, which is what happens when we study the Bhagavad Gita. So the Bhagavad Gita contains instructions by Krishna and his inspiration for us to follow it. In addition to that, Krishna gives us the Bhagavatam, in which we see the pastimes of Krishna, in which he is actually following the principles of dharma, and thus he is setting an example. So he is setting an example both by word and by practice. So this is what an acharya does. An acharya speaks, and through speaking, the acharya inspires us to follow the instruction, and the acharya acts. And through his actions, he sets an example for us to follow. So the subsequent verses we will see will also play upon both these understanding or interpretations of this particular verse. Okay, so we'll go to the next verse. Any questions on this one?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can you explain like a little bit, I mean, on the Prabhupada's, this thing, like Prabhupada's translation and meaning of the, that you are beyond the purview of the material? I didn't really understand the difference.
Sure. So the underlying premise for both the translations is the same, that Krishna is beyond the purview of the material energy and situated in the spiritual energy. So it's, like I said, it's saying the same thing in two different ways. So when Prabhupada translates Saha, if you look into the translation Prabhupada gives, he says, yet, though you are beyond the purview of the material energy. And that is Prabhupada's translation of Saha, which, as I said, was a placeholder for the glorification of Arjun to Krishna. So if you look at the previous two verses, Arjun had glorified Krishna in terms of several qualities, but the primary quality being that Krishna can make his devotees fearless. And why can he make them fearless? Because unlike the conditioned souls who are materially engrossed or materially conditioned, Krishna is beyond the conditioning of matter, and he is situated in the spiritual conception. So Arjun spoke about both these aspects of Krishna when he was praying to Krishna. So when he says Saha, that can actually point to either of the two. And Srila Prabhupada, he picks the first one, the first Saha, which is that you're beyond the purview of the material energy, but yet you do what seems to be within the purview of the material energy, which is following the Chatur Purusharthas in order to set an example for your devotees to follow and thus become free. So this is Prabhupada's expansion on the word Sa and the rest of the verse. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that because you're in the spiritual conception and has nothing to do with the material world, you still interact with the material world through the medium of your instructions. And these instructions contain the Chatur Purushartha, which also are accompanied with your inspiration. So you not only do you give the scripture, you also give the inspiration by which the conditioned souls can follow the Chatur Purushartha that you have given in the scripture and thus avail of your protection. So the point I was making is that both these, both the acharyas give both these translations because both of them are correct and non-different, An example is that when Krishna speaks the Bhagavad Gita, then he's giving his instructions. We don't see Krishna acting in Bhagavad Gita, but we see Krishna giving his instructions and the inspiration for us to follow. So that is, as per Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's interpretation. When we read the Bhagavatam, then we see Krishna actually acting. And through his activities, he's inspiring us to follow. And that is as per Srila Prabhupada's translation, which is why in the context of the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada's translation is more relevant. Philosophically, both are correct, but because this verse is appearing in the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada's translation is more relevant because within the Bhagavatam, we see lesser of Krishna's inspiration through instructions, even though there is Uddhav Gita, but in the scheme of things, we see lesser of Krishna's inspiration through instructions and more of Krishna's inspiration through his activities or the activities of his devotees.
So basically, you're saying that like dharma, artha, kama, the four purusharthas should not be the inspiration.
No, that is they should. So remember, the target over here is not the devotees. They are. So he's talking about Jiva Lokasya Maya Mohita. So these are the conditioned souls, Maya Mohita, who are bewildered by Maya. So how does Krishna help them? He helps them by providing them this Chatur Purusharthas. He provides them dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Right? So both the verses are resonating on this point that for the Jiva Lokasya Maya Mohita, the way for making advancement is by following the Chatur Purusharthas. The only place where they are giving different nuances is that how does Krishna give this Chatur Purusharthas? By his instruction, as in the Bhagavad Gita, or by his activities, as in the Bhagavad.
And Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu?
You mentioned in this verse, Prabhupada's explanation is more relevant for Bhagavatam, but for Chatur Purusharthas are always in action, right, Prabhuji? So how come it can be a instruction?
So they can be both. So Chatur Purusharthas could be in terms of, if you look at the bulk of the scriptures, the bulk of the Vedas, they're actually the Chatur Purusharthas. They talk about the importance of following dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. That you need to follow these principles of religiosity. You need to enjoy as per the religious scriptures. And of course, there is also part of the scriptures that talk about the how to part of it, the how to put it in action. Right? The scriptures talk about both of them. I think we were having this discussion the other day about how the Vedas have four parts. Yeah. And the latter part of the Vedas, which is the Aranyakas and the Upanishads, they are more about the what. And the earlier part of the Vedas, which is the Brahmanas and the Samhitas, they are more about the how-tos part of it. So both of them are there. And of course, Krishna gives, he gives access to both these aspects. Because we don't, at least as practicing devotees, we don't involve us too much in the study of the script of the Vedas or the Chatur Purusharthas. So for us, the most relevant example is the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, neither the Bhagavad Gita nor the Srimad Bhagavatam talk too much about the Purusharthas. Right? They mostly talk about bhakti. But the reason I'm bringing them into context here is that the relationship between the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam is the what and the how to. The Bhagavad Gita talks about the what, and the Srimad Bhagavatam talks about the how to. So we can understand the instructions of Krishna and follow them as given in the Bhagavad Gita, or we can see the activities of Krishna and his devotees and emulate them as given in the Bhagavatam.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
And does CC talk about the why, Prabhuji?
The why, he does not talk about the why. I guess the why is very implicit, that if you have to somehow get out of this material world, that's why you have to do this, to make, to what's the word that's used in the shreya, for the shreya. That if you're concerned about your ultimate good, then either then follow the Chaturpurusharthas.
So what? So in that context, like what would be CC talking about?
The CC talks about the third stage, which is what do these people experience? So you understand the instructions, you follow them. What is the experiential aspect of it? So the devotees that are talking, generally the Vaishnava philosophy is divided amongst the Bhagavad. What is it called? The Traya Darshan. The three darshans are the Sambandh, Abhidaya, and Prayojan. With the Bhagavad Gita talking about Sambandh, which is what is the nature of the relationship. Abhidaya is how is it established, and Prayojan is that once it is established, how is it enjoyed. So what do devotees who have understood the relationship, have established it, what do they experience?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Very good questions. Okay, 1725. तथायं चावतारस्ते भुवभारो जिहिर्षाय स्वानां चानन्यभावानाम् अनुध्यानाय चासाकृत. Thus, you have descended as an incarnation to remove the burden of the world and to benefit your friends, especially those who are your exclusive devotees and are constantly wrapped in meditation upon you. So far, Arjuna in his prayers, he has glorified Krishna as one who provides complete protection to his surrendered devotees by personally coming himself. So Arjuna in the very previous verse has stated that he comes to establish the Chaturdharma Purusharthas, and in this particular verse he talks about two of the three reasons that Krishna had given to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita about the reason of his descent, which is to annihilate the miscreants and to deliver the pious. So between the previous set of verses and this verse, the word "thus" is joining it. So the "thus" indicates that there is a conclusion based on the logic that's been developed previously, and we see a gap in the logic, because, and I think as practicing devotees you picked on this, that the Chatur Purusharthas are not really meant for, are not very important. It's not that they're not meant for, they are meant for, but they're not very important for practicing devotees. So Arjuna had previously glorified Krishna, saying that you inspire the devotees to follow or you inspire the conditioned souls to follow the Chatur Purusharthas. And now he's saying that for the exclusive devotees who are constantly wrapped in meditation, you have come specially for them. So Vishwanath, and so this is a gap that you're familiar with because it's been discussed a lot in Bhagavad Gita. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments on it, saying that the conclusion of this line of reasoning is presented in this verse that starts with Tathayam, which means thus. In this way, rejecting Maya, so this is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur saying, in this way, rejecting Maya in your spiritual form, you appear in this world. So Tatha Ayam Cha Avtaras. So while Krishna, through the Chatur Purusharthas, may help the conditioned souls, for his devotees, he comes personally. And that's why I'm saying we're familiar with it, because when we discuss 4.8 as Bhakti Shastri, we say that Paritranaya Sadhuna Vinashaya Cha Duskrita Dharma Samstapanarthaya. So everything Krishna can do, Dharma Samstapanarthaya, Vinashaya Cha Duskrita, he can do remotely. He can do through his agents or his representatives, Paritranaya Sadhuna. That he does personally. Not because he's incapable of doing it, but because he wants to do it. Because of, and this is what Arjun is mentioning over here, that because you're so attracted to your exclusive devotees who are constantly wrapped in meditating upon you, you descend as an incarnation. And as you descend on the side also, you remove the burden of the world. So the destruction of the evil, Krishna, for Krishna, it's a corollary. It's a side activity. When Krishna was in Vrindavan, his main activity was having fun. He was consorting with the gopas, the gopis, his parents, and then by the way, he would kill a few demons here and there. That was not his main activity. Arjun is pointing to that form of Krishna. So he's saying, I have glorified you as one who can liberate these conditioned souls by giving them the instructions in the scriptures, etc. But for your pure devotees, you are coming personally. So Sridhar Swami, his commentary is, well, what I've spoken is in line with this commentary for obvious reasons. So he states that, isn't it that removing the burden of the earth happens just by my wish? So he's saying Krishna can ask that question. So Sridhar Swami says that Krishna does not need to personally appear in this world to remove the earth's burden. He can do so simply by wishing it to be done. The actual reason for the Lord's appearance is given in this verse, that you descend to benefit your friends, especially those who are your exclusive devotees and are apt in meditation upon you. So Arjun, at this point, is invoking Krishna's Bhakta Vatsalya mood. So far he was speaking more about Krishna's Aishwarya mood. That so just like a king, a king when he establishes the process of morality and immorality, he can create a kingdom that runs without crime, where crime is controlled, the citizens are inspired. The king can do all that. But if the king wants to develop a kingdom where there is love, there is laughter, there is happiness, then what does he do? Then he comes himself. He celebrates festivals with the people, he will give in charity, he will for he will pardon criminals even though they deserve to be imprisoned. So he does a lot of these spontaneous loving things that suddenly takes the whole mood to a different level. So now Krishna is, Arjun, he's invoking that aspect of Krishna. So if you look at the word at the Sanskrit of the verse, he says Tathayam Avtarasti. So again, one can see that there may be a slight gap over here. That when you talk about Krishna as Swayam Bhagwan, why will Arjun call him Avtarasti? Avtaras is incarnations. Incarnations is Vishnu, right? Vishnu is coming and he's more in the Aishwarya Bhav. Two ways to understand it. Avatar also means to descend. So Arjun is pointing to the fact that Krishna is descending from the spiritual world into the material world only because of his intense mercy to the jivas. So Krishna as Swayam Bhagwan has nothing to do in the material world. So he's saying Avtarasti. Now Krishna as the Purusha avatars is actually in the material world. All the Vishnu avatars, the Kshirodasa Vishnu, they're in the material world. Now they're fully spiritual, but they're in the material world. But when Krishna is saying Avtaraste, that you're coming down, he's saying that you are actually Krishna Swayam Bhagwan. And you're coming down to this material world personally because of your intense affection for the devotees. Now in all this, Arjun is also laying personal claim to Krishna's affection. Now he's not going to say, I'm your pure devotee, or I deserve all your attention. But the underlying mood in all these prayers is also to lay claim to that particular aspect that's being glorified. So it's like a poor person goes to a rich person and says, you're so kind, you're so charitable, you help those who are in need of money. So what will the rich person do? He will give the poor person some money, because that's what he can, that's it. So it's not manipulation. Maybe it's in a transcendental way, but ultimately it is the person, because of their sincere relationship, laying claim to that aspect. So Arjun is laying claim that you're so kind that you personally come, Avtaraste, into this material world for helping devotees. So please help me. The second understanding of Avtaraste is given by Jiva Goswami in the Bhagavad Sandarbha. And Jiva Goswami says it's not the second understanding, it's the same understanding from a different context. So Jiva Goswami says that Arjun uses this word Avtaraste to distinguish Krishna, who is standing in the chariot in front of him, as Swayam Bhagwan, distinct from Avtaraste, different from all his other incarnations. So Jiva Goswami paraphrases Arjun's statements to say, and this I'm reading from the comments of Jiva Goswami, he says, O Lord, just as you have formally appeared as the Purusha avatars and other incarnations, you have now appeared, Tathayam Avtara, in your original form as Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You have appeared to remove the burden of the earth planet, Bhuvabara Jirasya, who is your great devotee, and to enable your devotees to constantly relish the happiness of worshipping and meditating on you. Anu Dhyana. So Jiva Goswami basically talks about he talks about the line of reasoning that Arjun is following, that you have appeared previously as your Purusha avatars, but now You have appeared as in your original form, Tatayam avatar, for Bhuva Bhara Jihirasya, in order to remove the burden on this earth planet. Who is your great devotee? And you're doing this to enable your devotees for Anudhyana, to constantly relish this meditation. So one of the reasons why the Paritranaya Sadhunam is not only to help the devotees who are present at the time when Krishna comes, but also to leave behind wonderful pastimes for other devotees to follow, which we are experiencing, right? When we see Krishna's interaction with Yashodamai, or we see Krishna's interaction with the Gopal friends, we derive so much pleasure. So Jiva Goswami is encapsulating both these aspects. So after explaining this, Jiva Goswami, he poses a question that Krishna must take a birth in the material world to give happiness to his devotees. He cannot avoid coming. Does this not conflict with his independence? So Jiva Goswami is saying that if the only way that Krishna can do Paritranaya Sadhunam is by taking birth in the material world, then Krishna's independence is being mitigated. Because anytime the jiva says, Krishna, help me, then Krishna is forced to take birth in the material world. And as we know, being forced to take in the material world is not a symptom of Krishna. It's not a symptom of liberated souls. It's a symptom of conditioned souls. But does this mercy of Krishna bring him down to the same plane as a conditioned soul? And of course, Jiva Goswami continues and says, no, it is not, because Krishna can do both. He can be free to come to the material world or not to come to the material world. He can be free to give his mercy or not give his mercy. But Jiva Goswami says in conclusion that the mercy of Krishna may appear to impinge on his supreme freedom. That may seem to be restricting it, but the mercy of Krishna comes from his freedom. So Krishna is free to give his mercy, but when he gives his mercy, that may impinge on his freedom, but it's an expression of his freedom. It's like a mother who is free to love her child. But when she loves the child, then she will get up at night to feed the child. She will run after the child. She will bathe the child. She will not eat herself and take care of the child. And then the mother might say that this child has completely destroyed my life, which may be partially true. New mothers will often say that. But the reason that that is true is because they have chosen as their own expression of love. So when love appears, then the whole question of freedom or lack of freedom is irrelevant. The only question that is relevant is the love arising from free will or is it being forced? And Jiva Goswami says that, of course, in Krishna's case, the love is an expression of his supremely free will. And out of that love, he does whatever is needed. So the same concept is made by Krishna in the 9th chapter. And so does anybody know the verse in the 9th chapter where Krishna makes the same concept?
Ninth chapter of Bhagavad Gita?
The 9th chapter Bhagavad Gita. Maybe it's not a fair question. I can say it because I've read Jiva Goswami's commentary. So, so it's in the 22nd verse, Ananyas Chintayantas Mam Yejana Pariyupasate, where he says that those who meditate on me with exclusive devotion, I carry with them what they lack and I preserve what they have. And then one way, the implicit question after that is, I don't see that happening with everybody. And Krishna says, not really. Samom surabhuteshu name dvesha santi na priya. That actually, I'm impartially partial. I'm impartial to everybody, but partial to my devotees. So, in a sense, this is the concept that Arjun is trying to lay his stake on. So the previous verse of the Chatur Purusharthas was Krishna in his Samham Sarvabhuteshu. I'm the same to everybody. And Arjuna is glorifying that aspect of Krishna. And in this verse, Ananyas Chintayantas Mam, he's glorifying that aspect of Krishna. So Krishna as being impartial to everybody, helping everybody in the same way. And in this verse, but being especially merciful to his devotees by appearing personally in his original form. Okay, questions, comments?
Yeah, Prabhuji, I was looking at the previous verses, especially like from verse 24 to what we are on.
25.
20. I'm sorry, verse 22 to 25, where so basically, like he sees that Ashwatthama has started, like his or start, what do you call it? He's pulled the Brahmastra towards him, and he sees this coming towards him, and then he's taking. So it's like basically turning towards Krishna and like glorifying Krishna or praying to Krishna. Right? These verses are talking about like Arjuna's prayers or something like that. So 22nd is talking about that how Krishna is the ultimate shelter, like as in like he's fearless, like he provides fearlessness. And then 23rd talks about how he's transcendental. 24th and 25th is talking about mostly like how he's beyond Maya, or how he's beyond but he's still executing the 4 Purusharthas. And 25th is, like you mentioned, again the mercy component, but in the sense that he still comes to deliver the world. But so isn't he still indirectly praying to remove this particular situation that he's in, like you mentioned about like when a person wants something from somebody, they glorify him, or they
So these are part of the prayers. So like I said, that 22 and 23 are what, and 24 and 25 is how. So 22, 23 is what does Krishna provide? And as you summarize, that he provides fearlessness, he provides freedom from Maya. He provides protection, and then the how is because he is very closely associated within the material energy with the jiva, either through his instructions or his personality. He is descending personally for his pure devotees. So the what and the how are basically talking about the relationship of Krishna with his devotees. And yes, so they are till so if you will notice the prayers of Arjun is never going to ask Krishna for protection. Like, he never says, Krishna, protect me. He will say that, Krishna, you are the protector, and this is how you protect. And I have some questions. Can you help me with that? He doesn't turn to Because think of it, put yourself in Arjun's position that you're standing on the chariot, and Prabhupada translates the Brahmastra to be a nuclear weapon. And one reason Prabhupada translates it, because the first canto Prabhupada translated in the 50s. And this was very close to the time when the nuclear explosions were done, the nuclear weapons were used. So it was, the nuclear weapons are the ultimate. I mean, it's still true, but at that time, people were coming to terms with the power of the nuclear weapon. That so far, with guns or with explosives, you can create localized damage, but the nuclear weapons, you can destroy the earth completely. That's why Prabhupada is repeatedly, if you look at the translations, he said Brahmastra, within bracket, he says, he'll say nuclear weapon. So Arjun will never say, that, protect me. He could have simply said one sentence, protect me from this Brahmastra, but he does not. He glorifies Krishna as the one who is capable of protecting, who actually protects, and he leaves it at that, right? And then he just waits for Krishna to extend his protection. So that's the mood of the devotees approaching. So these prayers are important. Firstly, in terms of the content, that we look at how Arjuna is glorifying Krishna. So in this, so there are just 4 verses, but so much philosophy has been imbued in these 4 verses. Almost the Bhagavad Gita has been imbued into it, and the mood. That how is Arjun as a devotee in distress approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So what was the third thing, Guruji, you said, like how Krishna, the first thing is how he's all powerful, and then the second was how he is capable, and then the third, like what were the 3 things that is talking about?
So he's talking about the fact that because Krishna is free from the influences of the material energy, he is able to protect us. Right? So that's one point. The second point that he makes is, because Krishna is situated in the material energy, he is not liable to be influenced by it. And the third point that he makes is that even though Krishna is aloof from the material energy, he is intimately present within the material energy. Because one might say that Krishna is sometimes people say that, and this is more of a rural dialect. Sometimes people say that Bhagwan apni Bhagwan giri mein busy rehte hain. They say that God is so busy being God, he has no time for us. And Arjuna is refuting that. So if you remember in the last discussion, we had said that for a person to be able to free another person, the person needs to be able to do 3 things. The person needs to be free himself. The person needs to know how to free the other person. And then the person needs to have the desire to free the other person. So these are the 3 points that Arjuna is making in this set of verses.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you. So 1726. Kim midam switkuto veti devadeva na vedamyaham sarvatumkham ayati tejaparam dharuna. O Lord of Lords, how is it that this dangerous effulgence is spreading all around? Where does it come from? I do not understand it. So this is the closest that Arjun comes asking for protection. He's not asking for protection, but he is talking about his own position as one who's feeling unprotected. So when somebody says avedayam, I'm bewildered, I do not understand it, what does it translate to? That I feel unprotected. So Prabhupada in the purport, he says that, and in a way he's summarizing these verses that Arjun spoke. This is the last verse that Arjun speaks before Krishna will begin to speak. So he says, anything that is presented before the personality of Godhead should be done after due presentation of respectful prayers. That is the standard procedure. And Sri Arjun, although an intimate friend of the Lord, is observing this method of general information. So last set of verses, Arjun has prayed, and now he is presenting his doubts in front of Krishna. So what is Arjun describing to Krishna? What he is seeing. He says this Param Daruna, most dangerous, Teja, effulgence, Sarvata Mukham, spreading in all directions. So he is sharing with Krishna, this is what I am seeing. Param Darunam Teja Sarvamukhata. I am seeing this most dangerous effulgence spreading in all directions. Now, based on what he is seeing, he asks Krishna two questions. He says, Kimidam, that what is this? And Switkuta, where does it come from? So Krishna might say that, why are you asking me this question? So he says, Veti Deva Deva Na Vedamya. He says, I'm asking you for this question for two reasons. He says that Na Vedamya, because I do not know it. And he says that Deva Deva, that you are the Lord of the Lords. Arjun uses the same term to glorify Krishna in the 10th chapter, Deva Deva. So he's saying, because I do not know, so I'm not asking you to test you. I'm not asking these questions whimsically, that I have some spare time on my hand and I'm, just making light conversation. He's saying, I'm asking you because na vedamya, because I do not know it, and I'm asking you because you are Veti Deva Deva, because you are the Lord of the Lords. The Devas know everything, but you're even as the Devas are to us, you are to the Devas. So the Devas know everything, but you know everything about everything. So Ashwathama's Brahmastra is fast approaching Arjun. And then Arjun is fearing the power of the imminent destruction of the Brahmastra. And at this point, he is taking shelter of Krishna because the Brahmastra is unstoppable. And in this mood of desperation, Arjun is now turning to Krishna and asking him. So if you remember in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjun has the same mood. He begins the whole process of accessing Krishna's protection through inquiry. What does he say in the second chapter, 8th verse? Karpanya doshapata svabhava prachami mam tam dharma samudacheta. He says that now you instruct me, what should I do? So similar mood. So Arjun does not say to Krishna that you kill the Kauravas. And I can then, he says, you are God, you kill the Kauravas, I can go and do my own thing. He's saying, tell me what to do. So in this case again, he's saying that this thing is coming. This effulgence is coming to me, and kimedam. What is this effulgence? And switkuto. Where is it coming from? So in the next verse, Krishna will begin to answer the question of Arjun. Questions, comments?
So, Prabhuji, Arjuna was able to. He had the capacity to counteract this Brahmastra, right? So why did he not do that, and why did he ask Krishna, why to what to do.
He has the capacity to counteract the Brahmastra, but so this is explained a little bit later in the verse, so that this is not something that Arjun is faced on a daily basis. So this is like a once in a lifetime kind of a thing for Arjun. The fact that a Brahmastra has been thrown at him. So it's not in his repertoire. If somebody has thrown an arrow at Arjun, Arjun can counteract it. But a Brahmastra is something, and we can see that based on Arjun's extreme sense of both amazement and unease, that this is a phenomena that has the power to alter the universe. So, he's obviously, so to speak, way beyond his league over here. So he's turning and taking shelter of Krishna in the mood of a devotee. But you're right, Arjun is able to do that, and he does that. But still, because of the magnitude of the event, he takes shelter of Krishna.
So, Prabhuji, practical understanding of this verse, like how we face many situations in life that we've not previously faced, and we don't know what magnitude of those, because they are not like as, they don't look as dangerous or bright as a Brahmastra. So how do we understand, in what situation should we like take guidance, or in what situation should we tackle them ourselves?
It's a very good question, practical question that is actually answered or rather discussed in more details, and maybe 5 or 6 verses. I'm not sure we'll get to it today, but the brief understanding is that one of the qualifications of a devotee is that the devotee has the power of both intelligence and discrimination. So when the need arises, the devotee acts, and when the need arises, the devotee takes shelter. So in one of the earlier class, we were discussing that how Prabhupada would say that a devotee should act like a fool in front of the spiritual master, and that points to the second aspect, where the person does not think that I'm qualified and competent to handle any and all situations, which is what Ashwatthama is doing. That even though he's facing a situation that is clearly life-threatening, but because he's Asharanya, because he has no shelter, he's simply acting whimsically. Arjuna is facing the same situation, which is life-threatening, but because he's Sharanya, because he's Krishna Sharanya, he's taking instructions of Krishna. So devotee uses the intelligence, uses the power of association in order to get this sense of discrimination. That you get up late one day and you're running late for work. Do you chant your rounds in the morning or the evening? You probably don't have to call up Guru Maharaj and say that, Guru Maharaj, should I chant my rounds in the morning or evening? But if this is happening 25 days in a month, then yes, you talk to Guru Maharaj and say that I would like to chant my rounds in the morning, but this is what's happening. What should I do? So just that sense of, like Prabhupada once, a disciple of his was sending those times, it was mostly through letters, was sending letters and saying how to do this, how to do this. And Prabhupada was patiently answering. And then he finally wrote a letter to her saying, use your intelligence, and if you don't have one, talk to somebody who has a little bit of it. So just the basic point that we always have our intelligence to take shelter of, and part of that intelligence is also to tell us when do we take shelter of our Guru Maharaj or senior devotees or counselor or sadhu, etc. Is that okay?
Yes, Roji. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji.
I was thinking, the progression of these verses, he's glorifying Krishna first, And then I was reminded of this nonviolent communication, that the seminar that happened in Geetanagari last year, and Bir Krishna Maharaj, we were hearing from him, and he said, the 4 steps were observation, sharing one's own emotions, their needs, and the final thing was the request. Somehow I was reminded of that, and in this particular verse, he makes this observation, which is almost like, it's just that it's not tint with his anything. And then he shares his emotion. It seems like, it's dangerous. And then a certain need, in a way, where does it come from? I do not understand it. And so the last part of it, which was the request, I guess it need not, it wasn't even made like you pointed out, but it had those first 3 elements, I felt. And so I just thought I'll bring that up. So in a way, I felt like, even in this practical question that Mataji asked, if those 3 things can come when we have an observation, when our needs and emotions are identified, in a way, I think the request will follow that, or at least we have made that request to Krishna in some way or the other. Just a thought. Thank you.
And yes, it is very relevant. And actually, I see that analogy, not the analogy, but the close parallel to B. Krishna Maharaj's 4 steps, and the 4 steps that Arjun is going through. The sequence is a little different over here, because his observation comes at the very last verse, where he talks about the Param Darunam. But yes, but essentially he is going through these 4 stages. And the 4 stages, as you rightly pointed out, which I was also discussing, is more implicit. That, Krishna, help, tell me what to do now. Thank you for that. Okay, 1727. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Vetadam Drona Putrasya Brahmanamastram Pradishtitam Neva Suveda Samharam Pranabada Upasthite. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "Know from me that this is the act of the son of Drona. He has thrown the hymns of the nuclear energy, Brahmastra, and he does not know how to retract the glare. He has helplessly done this, being afraid of imminent death." So this is the first time in the Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna has spoken. And very much like in Bhagavad Gita, so Bhagavad Gita, first time when Krishna speaks is 2nd chapter, 2nd verse, right? So when the first time Krishna speaks, then Srila Vyasadeva says the same thing, Sri Bhagwan Vacha, right? He says, Kutastva Kashmalam Midam Vishame Samapusthitam. So if you remember in the purport of 2.2, Srila Prabhupada, he goes and he gives several references from different scriptures as to why Vyasadeva has used Sri Bhagwan Vacha, which basically points to the fact that only Krishna can have this title of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada does not do that. And the reason again is that because just like Krishna, he does not explicitly make several points that he made in the Bhagavad Gita. He assumes that Arjuna has already understood them, or we have understood them. Same thing Prabhupada does. He assumes that when one is reading the Bhagavatam, one has read the Bhagavad Gita, and when Sri Bhagavan Uvacha comes, one is already convinced, at least scripturally, that Krishna is Sri Bhagavan, and only Krishna can be Sri Bhagavan. So in the previous verse, Arjuna had said, "Na vedamya," that I do not know. And Krishna immediately responds by saying that Vetedam, that know this from we. So what is the information that Krishna gives to Arjuna? He said, Drona Putrasya, that the son of Drona. And so one thing that you will notice is that in this whole conversation, not once is Ashwathama referred to by his name. He is always referred to in relation to somebody else. Here Krishna is calling him Dronaputrasya. He is called Gautami, the son of his mother, Kripi. He is called Droni, the son of Dron. He is called Dvijatmaja, which is the son of a Brahman. He is called Brahmabandhu, the relative of a degraded relative of a Bhagavatam. And these all reflect the deep disappointment that the speakers have with Ashwathama. So generally one speaks one's name out of a sense of familiarity or affection, or just a sense of relating. The name is very, very dear. The name is very dear to a person, but because they have the sense of disappointment, so that's why they're referring to him almost in a derogatory way. So when Krishna says that Dronaputrasya, he says his father is illustrious. He's Dronacharya. He's the son of that father. So what has Ashwathama done? Krishna says Brahmamastram Pradarshanam, that he has manifested the Brahmastra. And that is why you are seeing this Param Darunam Teja. That previously Arjuna had said that I am seeing this Param Darunam Teja Sarvata Mukham. Why am I seeing this? Because Brahmastram Pradashna. So Arjuna had asked two questions. That he had said that what is it? Kimidam. Krishna answers that. He says this is the Brahmastram. And then he had said Switkuta. Where does it come from? Krishna has answered that question. It is coming from Dronaputrasya. It is coming from Ashwathama. So he's saying this effulgence that you're seeing, this dangerous effulgence that you're seeing spreading all around you, is nothing but the Brahmastra that has been cast by Ashwathama. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Krishna uses the word pradarshitam. Pradarshan, so we know pradarshan. The pradarshan means public display. So anything that is public is not confidential. It is open for common knowledge. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, in a way, Krishna is asking Arjun, you already know this. So this is a point that Achyuta was saying, that Arjun knows what the Brahmastra is. He has to, because he knows how to throw the Brahmastra. So Krishna is saying that, Dronaputra Pradishtanam, that this is, maybe it's not public knowledge, but in the context of Arjuna, he is saying that you have seen this weapon. Do you not recognize it? Why are you asking me? But then Krishna says, because you are asking me, let me also tell you something more. So Krishna gives Arjun some additional pieces of information. He tells Arjun, why has Ashwathama acted in this way? So Krishna is saying that he has acted in this way because of pranabadhe upasthite. He has acted in this way because of his fear of imminent death. And the second information that he gives is even more alarming. He says, Nevashu Veda Samhar, that he has deployed it without even knowing how to retract it. So Krishna gives Arjun additional information that out of fear of death, and of course the fear of death is because of death at the hand of Arjun. Arjun is a more skillful warrior than Ashwathama. So Ashwathama knows that if he enters into direct combat with Arjun, Arjun will slay him. So he's fearful for his life. So he has thrown the Brahmastra, but he has thrown it Nevashu Veda Samharam. Veda means to know. Nevashu has no idea about how to withdraw it. So Prabhupada in the commentary says that a chanter of hymns knew how to apply the weapon as well as to retract it. That was perfect knowledge. But the son of Dronacharya, who made use of the subtle science, did not know how to retract it. Just 1 minute. Can you please? Yeah, sorry about that. So Prabhupada says that the son of Dronacharya made use of the subtle science, did not know how to retract. He applied it being afraid of his imminent death, and thus the practice was not only improper, but also irreligious. As the son of the Brahman, he should not have made so many mistakes. For such gross negligence of duty, he was to be punished by the Lord himself. So Prabhupada in the purport is talking about the seeds that Krishna is now sowing in the minds of the reader and Arjun, that in addition to all the sinful activities that Dronacharya has done, and we have gone through that list, killing young boys while they were sleeping in the middle of the night, he's also done these activities, that he has acted in an irreligious way, in a non-Brahmanical way. So he is setting up Arjun for setting up the platform for Arjun to act upon to punish Ashwatthama. Okay, so I'll stop over here and see if there is any questions or discussions. And I think before we go for questions, I just wanted to also share that from next week, we will have the Bhagavatam class twice a week on Monday and Wednesday, same time from 8 o'clock to 9:30. So I wanted to thank Achyuta Mataji and Prem Kishore Prabhu for both bringing to my attention that at the speed at which I'm going, we would have to live for one mantra to finish the Bhagavatam first, the Bhakti Vaibhav part, and also their enthusiasm of having more discussions. So I know that they reached out to you to get feedback from you. My feedback was that I'm more than happy to do it, but I also understand that all of you are busy. You do a lot of services and grastas, etc. But I guess I'm also gratified that most of the people have expressed interest and support. So from next week we will do twice a week, Monday and Wednesday, and like I said, same time from 8 p.m. to 9:30 Eastern time. Okay, so that was kind of my announcement. We can go back to our class and see if there are any questions, comments, or discussions.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. Gaur Sundar Das here.
Haribol Prabhu.
Prabhu, a question on the whole pastime itself, the Ashwatthama being chased by Arjuna, and Krishna is along with Arjuna in the chariot. So the whole Parthasarathi, the Arjuna being with Krishna in the chariot, we see multiple instances like this throughout Bhagavatam and Mahabharata, and the whole Bhagavad Gita is in fact Arjuna is in chariot with Krishna and dealing with situation. In one sense, we can also say that we have Paramatma in our heart and we are a spirit soul and we are in this chariot and dealing with situations of life, trying to get out of the conditioned nature. So I was just trying to remember 4 other instances, including the 2 that we are discussing. So one is, of course, the situation right now where Ashwatthama is being chased by Arjuna and Krishna in the chariot. and then the Battle of Kurukshetra, where Bhagavad Gita is spoken, and especially in the terms of Bhagavatam, Bhishma Dev pastime unfolds, um, and this pastime, and then there are two other pastimes where Krishna and Arjuna are in chariot. The third one is the burning of the Khandava forest, the Khandav where the Agni comes as a Brahmana and says, "I'm very hungry. I want to burn the whole forest." And there is a fight that happens. Arjuna and Krishna in chariot going all around Khandav forest, and I don't remember they are fighting with Agni or whatever, but that is the third instance. And the fourth instance is where Arjuna and Krishna go to meet Mahavishnu to recover the sons of Brahmana. They go through the coverings of the universe. And so when you see in terms of Bhagavatam, the first two that I spoke, the situation right now, the Ashwatthama pastime and the Bhishma Dev pastime, that comes up in Bhagavatam. Whereas the other two, I'm not sure whether they are part of Bhagavatam or they're just told as a story from Mahabharata. So the one factor that I thought which distinguishes the Khandav forest and the recovering sons of Brahmana is there is no aspect of surrender of a devotee surrendering to the Lord, whereas in this situation where Arjuna is surrendering because of Brahmastra coming, and Bhishma Dev is surrendering to Krishna, he drops his weapons and he starts glorifying Krishna in the battlefield. So the first two instances, there is glorification, there is surrender by the devotee, whereas the other two instances where Khandav forest and the recovering sons of Brahmana, there is no unfolding of any surrender aspect. Is that the reason based on which Vyasadeva is not mentioning the other two, and he's only mentioning the first two in the Bhagavatam because the surrender is there in the first two and not in the third and the fourth?
Not sure, because in recovering the sons of the Brahman, there is still that aspect of surrender, right? Because Arjuna had taken the vow that he will end his life if he's not able to recover the sons of Brahman. And again, he doesn't turn to Krishna specifically and says, protect me. But that aspect is still there. When Krishna says that you come with me, Arjun refrains from entering the fire. And in the Khandav Prastha, yeah, the mood is different. Both Arjun and Krishna are in the mood of are in the Virya bhav. They're both in the Kshatriya bhav. Arjun wants to display his prowess. And Krishna's mood is also a little different. I know what you say that he's a charioteer, which he is, but in Mahabharata he does not use any weapons. But in Khandav Prastha, Krishna himself is killing a lot of demons who are escaping from that forest. So his mood is different. So I'd have to think a little bit more about it. Difficult for me to speculate if Srila Vyasadeva is filtering these pastimes based on surrender. My general observation is that wherever there is Krishna, wherever there is Arjun, there is that surrender. But sometimes it's explicit, sometimes it's implicit. But it's unlikely that Srila Vyasadeva would see that Krishna at any point that Arjun is a non-devotee, that he's not displaying that mood of surrender. It may not be in the surface. It may be, for instance, take the example of Khandav Prastha, right? In Khandav Prastha pastime, Arjun offers to fight Krishna. And definitely not the mood of a devotee, but he's offering. He's offering he's challenging Krishna to battle. But still, but still, Krishna glorifies Arjun because each pastime itself is deep. So my observation is that the relationship between Arjun and Krishna does not evolve. Arjun is always surrendered to Krishna. Krishna is always affectionate to Arjun. Krishna is always protecting Arjun. Arjun is always seeking protection of Krishna. Why Srila Vyasadeva is presenting some pastimes in Bhagavatam and not, a little difficult for me to speculate on.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Anything else? Any other question?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, like Arjun actually not explicitly requested Krishna to protect him, but initially he went with glorification, and then subtly he expressed his need. So one thing specifically I want to know is what I couldn't understand the reason why he has not explicitly asked. And the second question is, in general, that should be the preferred way. Instead of explicitly asking, we should glorify Krishna and we should request him in a mood for his mercy, leaving it to Krishna's choice. Like, what should be our mood?
So what was your first question?
First question is specifically why Arjuna, specific to this pastime, that why Arjuna not explicitly requested Krishna. That is specific question. And second question is, in our context, that should be generally our mood also. When we are praying to Krishna, we should glorify and depend on his mercy.
Okay. Okay. So I think both the questions are the same, and Prabhupada gives the answer. The answer is yes. We should follow Arjun's footsteps. And, Prabhupada in the previous purport we shared, Prabhupada explicitly says this, that is the mood of a devotee. That one should, I'm trying to pull up that, the purport. Prabhupada says, anything that is presented before the personality of Godhead should be so done after due presentation of respectful prayers. That is the standard procedures. And as Sri Arjun, although an intimate friend of the Lord, is observing the method of general information. So he's setting an example for us. He's practicing something and he's asking us to follow. So, just like, when we go in front of the deities, there's a certain protocol. How do we greet the deities? That's a recommended way. Doesn't mean if you don't follow that, then we are depriving ourselves of the deity's mercy. But there are shades of doing it better and doing it even better. So when great devotees come, they set an example to show what's the exemplary way for us to act. So that's the exemplary way. That if we are in a particular situation, we are turning to Krishna for help. Then we turn after due prayers, and those prayers, Sachidanand Maharaj once had given this seminar about prayers, and he's saying those prayers fall into two categories. One is spontaneous prayers, and the second is recorded prayers. So recorded prayers are prayers that have been given to us by previous acharyas. Prayers by Kunti Devi, prayers by Bhishma Dev, prayers by Bhumi Devi, prayers by Vaishnava acharyas, prayers by Gajendra. So we can take shelter of those prayers. Or spontaneous prayers as just prayers that come from our heart. But generally, as Vaishnavas, our mood is to ask Krishna in a prayerful mood. Prabhupada would make this distinction between order supplier. that people come and ask Krishna, and they basically deal with Krishna as an order supply. Krishna do this, Krishna do that, Krishna take care of this. And if you don't do this, you're not God. If you do this, I'll give you $20. So it's very much as an order supply kind of thing. Mood of a devotee is a little different. That, we pray to Krishna, we glorify him out of genuine sense of our relationship with him, and then we beg for his mercy. The second point is explicitly asking for something. Here Arjun does not ask for it explicitly, but I don't believe that there is any injunctions or prohibitions for that. The reason Arjun is not asking is because he's an intimate friend of Krishna. So he has that faith, that implicit faith in Krishna, that Krishna is there to protect him in all situations. So he does not even have to say. Also, buried into his question is the prayer. When he says that, why is this light coming towards me? Why is this effulgence arriving to me? So buried in that is the prayer also. For us, we are not anywhere close to Arjun's level. It's always okay for us to ask Krishna in a prayerful mood. That my health is bad, but Krishna, if it so pleases you. Prabhupada gave this prayer to his disciples when his health was bad. That the health of my Guru Maharaj is bad. If it so pleases you, if you think that he can still serve you, please give him good health. So the mood is that of prayer. There is no demanding, but there is also expressing this desire to do more service.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so we'll stop here. We went over a little over time. We'll stop over here. Thank you very much. Vancha kalpatarubhayaschit kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. शिला प्रभुपाद की जय. निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे. हरि हरि हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna.